And we are back with James Baker, the former Secretary of State and Secretary of Treasury, and so much else. Jim, let me ask you about the resolution in the UN in which the United States, for the first time, did not veto a resolution condemning the building of settlements in Israel. You railed against these settlements when you were Secretary of State, and you got into some hot water, but you held to your position, denying loan guarantees to the Shamir government. What do you make of what the Obama administration did?
Well, first of all, Fareed, let me suggest to you it wasn't the first time that the United States didn't veto. Abstaining in that situation was very consistent with long-standing U.S. policy. If you go back and look at a lot of the resolutions, in fact, there was one in 1980 specifically on settlements, to which the United States abstained rather than vetoing it, very critical of Israel. In many instances, you'll find resolutions that were critical of Israel that the United States supported. So this was not some break with long-standing tradition. Now, the reason I think settlements are a bad idea is that they tend to create facts on the ground which prohibit or prevent negotiating the status of that particular land according to the Land for Peace provisions and requirements of UN resolutions 242 and 338. And if you create facts on the ground, there's nothing really then left to discuss about trading land for peace. And so I don't think there's anything unusual about this. I think that a two-state solution is the only real solution to the Israeli-Palestinian problem. Without a two-state solution, if it's just a one-state solution, I don't see how Israel can maintain both her democratic character and her Jewish character, because the demographics are such that sooner or later she'll be overwhelmed with the Palestinian population, and she will be faced with having to face the issue of whether to deny them full voting rights and so forth. And as a matter of fact, it was former Prime Minister Ehud Barak of Israel who said, Israel needs to make the tough decisions if it wants to avoid becoming an apartheid state. And so that's why I think it was appropriate in this instance for the United States to abstain. If we're talking about abandoning the two-state solution and leaving it, that's going to create serious problems for the United States, not just with respect to the Arab-Israeli dispute, but it's going to create serious problems for us more generally in the region as a whole. Let me say one final thing. The president-elect has said he would like to be the president that solves the Arab-Israeli conflict, or the Israel-Palestinian conflict. And let's hope he can do that, and I hope he will immerse himself in it and really work at it, because it takes leadership at the very top of America's government if that's got any chance of succeeding. But you can't think you can succeed at that if you are, in effect, so biased one way or the other. You cannot be Israel's lawyer and expect to solve the Palestinian-Israeli dispute. And so I hope he's successful in doing it, but you have to be seen to be at least a semi-honest broker.
What do you make of the decision then by the president-elect to choose as his ambassador to Israel a man who argues that the West Bank should be annexed, or he'd be perfectly comfortable with it, and advocates the moving of the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem?
Well, of course, I don't agree with that position. I don't know the ambassador designate. I have no information whatsoever about him. But I feel, generally speaking, the President of the United States ought to have the right to select whoever he wants to serve in his government. But if he expects to solve this terribly difficult problem of Israeli-Arab conflict, he's going to have to be seen to be somewhat of an honest broker, or it isn't going to happen.
Let me ask you about Russia.